Hello you, welcome! Hope you're having a wonderful time, because I am having a wonderful time. And here we got my hydraulic press. So, throughout the video I'll be explaining as good as I can how I made things, why I made things, and the way I made them. And at the end of the video we will be doing a few tests, what we can crush, because the estimate tonnage for this thing is around 15 tons, but theoretical wise that is. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next. And I'll see you at the end of the video. Okay, so I got the rough parts gathered that will be used to make a extremely stiff I-beam. So we got the front and the back parts from forklift which are 50 times 120, and the center part of the I-beam will be 30 times 195, and at the top this will be welded, and the ears. And then we got the cylinder, which is a 80 bore, which is 50 long, and it extends up to 90. So for welding preparations, I'm putting a bevel on all of the pieces. That will also ensure a better penetration for the welding. So now, before I move over to my dad's workshop, I'm just gonna tack weld this piece together, making sure everything is nice and straight. And so the first thing before I actually now start welding this is I'm gonna preheat this thing, get rid of all the moisture in the steel, and also that will allow me for some better welding penetration. So now as I begin to weld this I-beam together, although this is very thick steel, I do crisscross a little bit back and forth from side to side to make sure it doesn't shrink and warp on me. Just having a bit of a test to see where I can put the ears for the top of the cylinder. For the lower part of the frame, I'm using 50 times 100 millimeter steel chunks, and I am leaving a gap there, so a small to medium sized punch will go right in the center. And for the top part, I happen to find a 100 times 100 millimeter steel chunk, then which I welded the ears for the cylinder onto. And for this step is really just carve out some grooves for some even additional better welding penetration. Just balls out with the machine, getting all the 350 amps. At this point, this thing is getting so heavy that I cannot anymore safely turn this thing around. Estimate somewhere around 150 kilos, maybe even up to 200. Because all of this is solid chunks of steel. Next up here, I'm drilling the holes for what will become of the upper jaw for the hydraulic press. And this pack of steel will just get bolted together with M16 bolts that goes all the way through. Skipping forward a bit here now, I'm willing to get the packs of steel. And as you can see inside of the C clamps, I have a loose piece of steel that will be used to create additional tooling. As you'll see in a moment, I'll be picking it up and down because that will be how quickly you can change your dies for this. Just like that, up and up. So here I'm marking out the holes for the drain. And then we have the filler cap and where the oil filter will be circulating the oil from the tank. So I'm using a 150 times 150 steel tube, which I then just have 2 pieces of sheet metal that I'm welding to the top and the bottom. And then we have I'm welding in the bottom drain. And eventually for the bottom drain, I'm also gonna be welding there an extended cup. There it is. So any debris that will get trapped on the bottom of the tank will not flow right back in the line. There we get a filler cap. And the final big hole will be remaining open. I have threaded some holes for where the filter will get mounted. As you might have realized already by this point, I like to repurpose items. This is some old electrical box for something, but I like to repurpose items for various reasons. One of them being it saves me time most of the time when I don't have to create something new and just take something that is already almost what I want. The only downside to that might really be that I have to get messy and grind and get all the grimy stuff off it, but it's also very friendly for the wallet. It's also not bad for the environment, so and it also gives it a very unique look, and also it has been somewhere else. It served a purpose already, so it's just fun to repurpose as well. So I encourage you to do the same. So here now I'm getting ready to mount the motor with the pump, but marking the holes from the inside would just be extra work, so I'm just mirroring on the opposite on the outside what will be on the inside. So using a magnet drill press here, making life a breeze, starting off with a smaller hole, a pilot hole so to say, and then later going on with a bigger one. So as the case has been stripped of all unnecessary things, I'm putting on some widening skirts because I'm gonna put wheels on this. But as I also realized here rather quickly is that it was not wide enough. So I'm just putting some more piece of steel on it with some bracing so it will be more stable. And here next up, I'm putting all the things in it. We got the tank and we got the motor, the engine, and the hydraulic pump. And then we also got the hydraulic valve that actually adjusts all of those things. And this is why I made this thing so tiny. The tank, I mean, because it just barely fits in there, but I have room to work. And because we're also working in such a tight space, I don't want any extra length on the hydraulic tubes. So I'm crimping my own, again, borrowing tools from dear old dad. And it is simple as putting on a piece of steel coupling, press it in, and it's done. And I'll be repeating this process quite a few times, so I'll show you a few here. Then I'll skip to the rest. So here I'm wiring in the switch for the motor, and I happen to have a 5-pole cable, which is 3 phases, brown, black, and gray, and then I got neutral and ground, which is blue, and then the ground is yellow and green. If you happen to have a 4-pole cable, what you can do is you can just connect the ground to the blue, because oftentimes blue is also grounded. But you should look into your area code if you have it at your place, because it is not a standard always everywhere. But in Europe, most of the time it is. So as an additional added bonus to the tank, I also added a pair of neodymium magnets, one for the in and one for the out, catching any possible unwanted metal particles. So I'm just double checking all connections, making sure they're nice and snug, because I don't want this thing to be squirting out and having to open it all up again. I guess that's wise. So the cylinder in question is brand new, but for some reason one of the connections was welded at a fixed angle, which didn't work for me, so I just simply cut it off and welded it back at a new angle. There's not really anything else you need to think about here, but keeping the rubber sealants from the inside as far away as possible from the welding point. In this case, it's fully extended, meaning it's as far away from the back. To mount the dies onto the flat bar that goes into the hydraulic press, I simply use my caliper to scrape a center line, and then I put them in the press, and then I just ever so slightly get the press down to get some pressure, because that also ensures an absolute 100% contact surface on the dies. And then once they're in place, just put my ground for the welder and tack weld it in. And once they're all tack welded in, I just do the rest of the welding on my welding table. Also, in case you're wondering, the material I'm using for the dies in this case is the bottom side of a railroad track. It is quite durable, but it's also very hard to shape, just to keep in mind if you want to do something similar. And so finally, doing a bit of a cleanup still on the DIY treadmill belt sander I built earlier. Unfortunately, that one did not get documented. But here's how the dies are almost complete. Just doing a few additional touches with my pneumatic belt sander. Also a tool I can strongly recommend. Also, the reason I put the valve controller horizontally is so I can either... Alright, lovely to see that you're still sticking with us. Alright, so let's begin the testing. For first off, we'll go with a 12.5 by 5 centimeters, about a 6 by 2, I guess, something along that lines. And let's go. Alright, next up here we got ourselves a 70mm tube with 4mm walls. Let's see how it suffices. Pretty flat. Alright, there you have it. What do you think? I think that did marvelously. Just press the things, not much hesitation, but that should be only 15 tons. That feels like it's... I don't know how many tons that is, but it is quick work of it. I love it. I'm very happy with this build. There's a few things I would have done differently, but overall I will be building and improving on this as I go, but there's no really necessary thing to do, so it'll just come with time when I feel what will need to change. So that later. So if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to answer. Don't hesitate to ask. And thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing. I will be putting more of these kind of videos out in the future. So hope you're having a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. There you go, that's a little much.